Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here today. This is actually my first webinar from our new office. We're now on 10800 Biscayne Boulevard. For those of you that don't know me, I want to introduce myself. My name is Romy Jurado. I'm an attorney here in Florida. I recently launched my own law firm, even though I've had my own law firm for a while now, but now it's like completely 100% mine. And it's called Jurado and Associates. We are a law firm in Miami. And we do a couple of different areas of law. We do real estate, as some of you all know. We do immigration, probate, state planning, litigation, trademarks, copyrights. What else do we do? And everything in between. There's things that we don't do, such as divorce law, criminal law, and such, but we have a good network of attorneys that we can refer you to. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about one of my favorite subjects, which is immigration, business immigration, especially as it has to do with real estate. The market, as you all know, it's crazy right now. Everybody's buying property left and right. Also, because of Corona, a lot of people from everywhere, from Peru, from South America, from Europe, everybody wanted to come and live in Miami. And that has been fantastic for us, immigration attorneys, for you guys, real estate agents, for us in the real estate side. It's just been amazing. And there's a couple of different things that are happening too that might come up in the next 2 weeks that is also going to benefit the market here in South Florida. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about that. Please, by all means, put your questions in the chat, put your questions in the Q&A. I'll try to answer all of them during the presentation. If there's anything that I don't answer, please feel free to send me an email. I will send everybody the PowerPoint presentation. I am recording this and I'm hoping to edit it. And then I will send you guys the recording. Again, my name is Romy Jurado. I'm an attorney. Our law firm's name is now Jurado and Associates. I'm really happy to be here with you all. And I look forward to assisting you, your clients, and help you grow your business. So now the first thing I'm going to do is share my screen with you all. Give me just 1 second. Okay, perfect. So I think everybody's able to see my screen now. All right, so that's our beautiful logo. I hope you guys like it. I came up with it with the little tower looking thing. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any comments, you don't like the colors, let me know. So this is a little outline of what I'm going to speak about. Investment visas and tying it to real estate as much as I can, okay? And there's 3 investment visas. There's the L1 visa, the E2 visa, and the EB5 visa. All of these are known as investment visas because basically if you have money to invest, you're able to obtain a visa and eventually, hopefully, residency as well. So a lot of you, I think, are real estate agents. I love realtors because you guys are very nice to me and send me lots of clients, and I do the same and send you lots of clients, and it's a very happy relationship. So I want to first focus on how this would help you grow your business. For any of these investment visas that I'm going to discuss today, people need workspace. Nowadays, with Corona, as we know, people can just work out of Starbucks, they can work out of their house. You really don't need physical space, but we're not doing this just to have a business. We're doing this to obtain an immigration benefit. And in order to obtain an immigration benefit, immigration wants to know that you have physical space for most visas. Not only that you have physical space, but that you are legally allowed to operate within that physical space, meaning you have all the licenses and permits that are required for that physical space. So you guys as realtors can assist the clients to obtain that physical space. What physical space? It can be a warehouse, it can be an office, it can be an office building. It cannot be a home office, okay? So I wanna take you guys away from that. It cannot be a home office. No, you will not get an investment visa using a home office. It will not work. I understand you can do it for tax purposes. You're allowed to do that, but we're not doing this just for business. We're doing this for an immigration benefit, and you cannot use a home office. So the workspace. The clients can rent it, and a lot of times they do, but they can also buy it. For example, you will see in the E2 visas, you can have a consulting business, right? A consulting business in any industry. But then the client tells me, Romy, what can I invest $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in if I have a consulting business and I really don't need any inventory? I don't need a lot of equipment. Maybe I just need a couple of computers. And my answer to them is buy the office space. You may not need to buy it, But if you buy it and it's in the company's name, it is considered investment for immigration purposes, and it will help you qualify for the business. So that is why I really like to work with realtors, because you guys can help them find that office space wherever it is. They could also buy the location where the restaurant is. They can buy the location where the coin laundry is. They can buy any real estate having to do with the business, and it will qualify for investment purposes. Also, clients need a place to live. In my experience, when they come in for the investment visa, first they rent a short-term rental, which can probably be a couple of months, because this is not done like this. It's not super fast. It takes time to find the business. It takes time to do the legal due diligence. It takes time to actually do the closing. So it's not something they can come in, buy it, and go. It's going to take a little bit of time. So they will need a place to live first, short-term. And then it's like clockwork. As soon as they get the investment visa, what they do is they buy a property. These are people that have money. It's called an investment visa. So they need to have money to invest, and they don't like to live in rented locations. So what they do as soon as they get the visa is they get a loan to buy a property. And the great thing is that as foreigners, a lot of you may know, you can buy property here with 30% down. You don't need to show income from the United States. You can just show your financial statements from your foreign bank account, from your accountant abroad. And with that, sometimes I would say that it's easier for a foreigner to obtain a loan for a mortgage than it is for a US person. When you're a US person, they even ask you for blood. That's not the case for foreigners. So I know that I see my friend German there. He's a great mortgage broker. I can have you guys speak with him. He does a lot of foreign work. He helps a lot of my clients get those foreign loans when the banks are saying, no foreigners. It is something that's viable, and it's really great to do for foreigners here in the United States. As soon as they obtain their visa, what they do is find the property they want to live. And again, you guys can be assisting them. So first you help them buy the location where they have the business. Now you're going to assist them buy the place where they're actually going to reside and live. Also, the business can be real estate, okay? Now, a lot of times we think of real estate as a passive business because it's something that you can do with not a lot of help, and it can kind of do itself, When we're thinking about immigration and real estate, then we want to make sure that it's an active business, okay? So depending on the type of visa, that would regulate how many employees you need to hire. But I can tell you that I have myself done different investment visas with real estate. Just to give you some examples to throw out there are, for example, the person buys a shopping plaza. If the person buys a shopping plaza and that's their business to manage that shopping plaza, that's totally acceptable, and it's not a problem for immigration. The person buys the other one was development, actually construction. So the person buys a lot of plots of land, and his plan is to develop housing and sell them. That's okay. Somebody wants to be in the business of buying real estate, fixing it and selling it. That's fine too. It could qualify for a couple of the different investment visas. The other one that we see a lot is managing real estate. So you could open up a management company, and you can manage your own properties, or you can manage properties for others. You don't necessarily need a CAM license as long as you stay under the required threshold, and that can be your business, a property management business. Now, for all of these businesses, we actually have to show you have an office, you have a website, you have employees, you qualify. You can't just be, yes, I'm doing this, give me the visa. It doesn't work that way. It's a process. Also, and of course, if you're the realtor, you can advise them and help them in finding all of these properties and different things, and then earning commission from that. Lastly, the client can also buy an existing business. What business? Any legal business, pet shops, restaurants, logistic businesses. Let's see what else. Everything in between. They can buy any business and possibly qualify for an investment visa. And you guys as realtors and business brokers can receive commission from them buying those businesses. When people buy businesses, there's no standard contract. So let me move you away from that. What we do is we draft a letter of intent, and then we also draft the purchase agreement. We do that as attorneys. We represent the client and do the legal due diligence to make sure the business doesn't have any active lawsuits, any liens on top of the business. And then they usually hire an accountant to perform the financial due diligence. And then we're able to close and actually do the purchase of the business. So For the realtors and the business brokers, your involvement is pretty much finding the business. Whether it's a good business or not, financial wise or legal wise, it's really not up to you, because that's something that the accountants and the lawyers should do the analysis of, and then have the client make an informed decision. But in all these things that I've mentioned, realtors and business brokers can receive commission, because these are all things that clients will need in order to apply for an investment visa. So now we're going to talk about our first investment visa. Let me see. I think I have some questions here. All right. Let me see if I see any questions. Not yet. Okay, I don't see any questions yet. But if you guys have any questions, please, by all means, feel free to put them in the chat or in the Q&A. Thank you. All right, so an L1 visa. What is an L1 visa? An L1 visa allows a foreigner who works for a company abroad, anywhere, in any country, to be sent to the United States to manage an existing subsidiary or to establish a subsidiary of that company in the United States. The basic requirement is that this person have worked for 1 year out of the past 3 years in the company abroad. Now, they don't have to own the company abroad. They just need to be an employee on payroll. Most of the time, is the owner that wants to come in with an L1 visa, but that is not a requirement. It can be an employee that's on payroll, not any employee. Right? So we cannot send a receptionist, for example, but we can send any employee that is an executive or managerial capacity abroad, in the company abroad. So who is an executive or a manager for immigration purposes? An executive is somebody that oversees other employees. So if the person that's going to come in has other employees under them, they're probably going to qualify, as long as those other employees, at least 4 or 5 of them, are professionals as well. We can make the person qualify as an executive. A manager doesn't necessarily need to manage other employees, but they need to manage a specific important function of the organization. To give you some examples, a manager can be the person that manages the sales department of the organization. A manager can be somebody that manages the marketing function of that organization. So maybe they don't see other people within the organization, but maybe they oversee the press, they oversee the people that do the social media marketing, they oversee the ads, they oversee all those things, and it's an important function of the organization, so they're going to qualify as managerial capacity. We've done that before. An executive, most of the time, is easier to show, because then you show a chart where the executive is here, and then the other employees who are professionals are on the bottom, and then we're able to show that the person has executive capacity. So first, we show the person has worked for 1 year out of the past 3 years in a foreign company. Then we show that person has managerial or executive capacity. Now we are almost there. Now we show that the company has actually made an investment in the United States, okay? They need to make an investment, whether they start a business from scratch or they buy an existing business. The foreign company needs to send money to the US company in order to make that happen. If it's an existing company, then the money will go to the sellers of the existing company. If it's a new company, then the money will come to the bank account of the company that we formed in the United States, and then it will be used to purchase either another business or to purchase assets and set up the business. So either way, it's going to come to the US bank account of the company that we formed. The company that we form in the United States needs to be owned by the foreign company. They need to have a relationship. Otherwise, it's not going to work for an L1 visa. So what type of relationship can they have? There's different ones. One type of relationship that they can have is that they can be like a parent company. So the foreign company can own 60% of the US company. The foreign company can own 100% of the US company. The foreign company can have the same owners in the same percentage as the US company. So there's different relationships that we can show. And if we show that, then we're almost there for an L1 visa. Then we need to show that in the United States, right, the company is also going to have the capacity to have an executive level employee or managerial level employee. This is what makes the L1 visa a little more difficult than the E2 visa, for example, which I'm going to discuss in a minute. And the reason is because you need to show that you have created jobs in the United States or that you would create them within the first year. And not just any jobs. You need to show, in my experience, that you're going to create at least 8 minimum jobs, and half of them are going to be professionals. Professionals for immigration purposes is somebody that has a college degree. So if you're able to show that, Great, we can get an L1 visa. So why would I want to get an L1 visa for a client of mine? Well, one of the big reasons is because the investment amount doesn't have to be that high. We've done it with 150,000, 200,000. Two is that it leads to a green card, to a permanent residency card. How it works is first, the employee will get a visa for 1 year. Then the employee will renew the visa for an additional 2 years. And as soon as we get the renewal approved, that is when we can apply for residency. We cannot apply for residency at the beginning. We have to wait until a year has passed because we have to show that the foreigner worked for 1 year in the foreign company. Then the person came to the United States and worked for 1 year in the US company, and then we can apply for residency. And in this package, for immigration purposes, the family package is always going to be the person that's applying for the visa, their legally married spouse, and their children, unmarried children under 21. So if you have that, they're going to be included in a package for the investment visa. So when this person obtains the residency, their spouse and children are also going to obtain the residency. That is why I love it. It's a great visa if you're able to create the amount of employees required. So for this visa specifically, you have to show you have physical premises. Yes, we have to show pictures of the office, pictures of the warehouse, pictures of the actual premise. You have to show that the person that we're sending is an executive or manager and that they have been for 1 year out of the past 3 years in a foreign company. So from the foreign company, I'm going to ask you for payroll records. I have to show this person has been on payroll for 1 year at least. Also, we have to show that in the United States, you're going to be a manager or an executive. And the way that we show that is through employment. That is why for this visa, it's very important to have employees in the United States and half of them be professionals. If given this visa, we've been successful, thank God, and you're able to work here for 1 year, renew for an additional 2 years, and after that, apply for a green card. Once you receive your green card, it's a permanent green card. If you quit the job, close the office, they cannot take it from you. It's not a conditional green card, it's a permanent green card. If you decide not to apply for residency card, then that's your choice too. You don't have to, but the maximum time you can get an L1 visa for is 7 years. Okay, so it's not forever. You cannot stay on an L1 visa forever. The maximum amount of time you can stay on an L1 visa is 7 years. I haven't had anybody that wants to do that yet. They usually come in, maybe after 3 years or 4 years, they end up applying for residency. But if your choice is to just be here for 7 years, you can do that as well. So that's the L1 visa. It's really a great visa because, again, it gives you residency and eventually citizenship. So that's fabulous. It includes your clients, their spouse, and their children under 21. It doesn't require a lot of investment. Great businesses that I've seen for this. I'll tell you some businesses that I've seen for this tying to real estate and some businesses that I've seen not tied to real estate. And then you guys can decide. So not tied to real estate. Logistic businesses are great for this because they usually have at least 8 employees and they usually have professionals. Daycare centers or preschools are really good for this because they usually have teachers and they have professional degrees or have bachelors and they have a good number of employees. The business abroad doesn't have to do the same thing that the business here does. Abroad, you could have run a law firm, just to give you an actual example, and then here you have a daycare business, no problem. So as long as the business in the United States creates, I would say, at least 8 jobs and half of them people with bachelor's degrees, then you can possibly qualify for the L1 visa. Businesses that I have done tied to real estate for L1 visas have been development. You buy plots of land and you're gonna become a construction company essentially. So you hire the general contractor, you hire the architect, you hire an administrative assistant, you hire the salesperson, you hire the marketing person, you hire the accountant. You hire all these people. Those are jobs that you're creating that are gonna help you qualify for an L1 visa. That's development, construction. I've also seen it where they do property management, right? So you open up a property management company, you manage a lot of properties, you need to have certain people on payroll, you need to have a manager on payroll, you need to have an administrative assistant on payroll, you need to have all these different people, and then you're also able to apply for an L1 visa. Of course, building a hotel, big things, scale things like that are going to qualify for an L1 visa. So they can be tied to real estate. We have done them. It just might require higher investment amount, but it is doable for real estate. It's completely doable. And it does lead to residency and it does lead to citizenship. Okay. Next, I want to talk to you guys about the E2 visa. The E2 visa is also a great visa because it allows citizens from certain countries. So this one is not for everybody. It allows citizens from certain countries to open up a United States company and pretty much start a business from scratch or buy an existing business, okay? Any business, any legal business, anything will qualify for an E2 visa. The minimum number of employees, 2, is okay. Do they have to be professionals? No, they don't. They can be any employees doing anything for your company. So what are the minimum investment amount everybody wants to know? We say at least 100,000. I have done it with less and I have done it with a lot more. Okay, so it just depends. What does the business need? If you're telling me you're going to open up a 5-star restaurant, then $100,000, it's not going to be enough. If you're going to buy a cafeteria, then $100,000 is more than fine. If you're going to buy a pet store, then $70,000 might be okay. Whatever you pay me for my, or your client pays me for my services, whatever they pay the accountant, whatever they pay the people that are going to do the business plan, because all of these visas require a business plan, that is all included as part of the investment, okay? So even though the purchase of the business might be a certain amount, the other stuff will increase it to the higher amount. Somebody's asking me if there is a minimum investment amount for an L1 visa. There isn't. They want it to be substantial. They don't define what that is. So I recommend at least 100,000 for an L1 visa. The same thing that I recommend for an E2 visa. It's not set by statute. This money for the L1 visa comes in from the foreign company because it's the foreign company deciding to open up a company in the United States. The money that comes in for an E2 visa is from the foreigner themselves. It's from the investor. They are the ones that are coming here to open up a company and to be the investor. So when I send you my follow-up email, I will include a link of the countries that are part of this treaty. It's a special treaty that they have with the United States, and they're able to qualify for E2 visas. To give you some examples from South America, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, they all have treaties with the United States, okay? From Central America, Costa Rica, Mexico, they all have treaties with the United States, and a lot of the foreign country, European countries have treaties as well. I'm Peruvian. Peru sadly doesn't have a treaty. I hope one day they will, but they don't right now. However, sometimes Peruvians have dual nationality. So they are not just Peruvians, they're also Colombians, they're also Chileans. Even if they've never lived in those countries, they're still gonna qualify. So a lot of times I have cases where the spouse has the treaty nationality, but the children and the other spouse doesn't. That's no problem. As long as one of the spouses has the treaty nationality, we're going to be able to use that nationality for everybody else, and they're all going to be included in an E2 visa. Brazil doesn't have an E2 treaty with the United States, but we have done a lot of applications for Brazilians. Why? Because a lot of them have Italian nationality, and then we're able to do it. Venezuela doesn't have a treaty with the United States, but we have done E2 visas for Venezuelans. Why? Because a lot of them have Spanish citizenship or Italian citizenship or Colombian citizenship. And if they have that, we're able to use the E2 visa. So what I like to do is I like to talk to the person, first see where they're from and see if they're able to get somehow a passport from another country. Sometimes they tell me, well, my grandmother was Italian, so I'm able to get it. Okay, get it. If it's only a couple of months, now you can use that to apply for an E2 visa. Immigration says that the investment amount has to be substantial, but they don't define it. In my experience, like I said, at least $100,000, but it depends on the type of business, right? If you're going to do a business that requires more investment, then the investment amount has to be higher. The business doesn't have to qualify as well as the investor. People ask me a lot of times that, but the thing is that the investor qualifies. The business can be any business. They can buy a business, they can start a business from scratch. The investor needs to have the treaty nationality. The investor needs to have the substantial amount to invest, and then they will qualify for an E2 for an E2 visa to buy any business. Okay, then the investor needs to be able to come in here and own at least 50% of the company. I like to make them own at least 51%. They can own 100% of the company, minimum 51%, and then that way we can apply for an E2 visa. Sometimes they come in, they want to have US partners or other partners. That's completely fine as long as they own at least, I would say 51%. Now, this visa allows you to give an E2 visa for 2 investors at a time, assuming they're from the same country. So it's called, they do it where you have one investor that owns 50-50 and the other one, sorry, 50 and then 50, and then they have something called negative control. So now we're able to use one business for two different investors, okay, and their families. I would say that the investment amount should be higher. The number of employees should maybe be 4 if we're gonna do two investors and two of their families, just because it looks better for immigration purposes. This E2 visa also allows the company to bring employees from that same country. Let me explain that. So let's say that we have a Canadian person open up a company here and start a business from scratch. Now that company, it's called a Canadian company because it has the nationality of the Canadian investor, and the company has an E2 visa. That company is able to bring other Canadians to come in to work for that company as employees, also with an E2 visa. So the E2 visa is not just for the investor, it's also for the employees that you want to bring. Now, you have to show that those employees have something that you cannot find in the United States, which is actually maybe easier to show now because, as you guys know, it's really hard to find good employees. So it works out, and we have done E2 visas, not just for the investors, but for the employees as well. The requirement is that they have the same nationality as the investor, okay? And then you were able to do it. Let's see. All right. Again, substantial amount. Immigration does not define what is a substantial amount, but it's the cost of the investment compared to the total cost. If the business requires a higher investment, then that's what you need to invest. If they're buying a business, right, then it's whatever the business is being sold for. If you're doing this for real estate, so if the shopping center costs $3 million, that's the investment amount. If the properties that they're going to buy and fix cost $1 million altogether, that's the investment amount. If the property management business, you only need to invest, I don't know, 20,000 because that's what it costs you to do the website and you're going to be managing other people's properties, I would say that's not enough. Maybe buy the office where you're going to have the property management business, and then that would qualify and be a higher amount of investment. Immigration likes to look at those things. In my experience, they're harder with South American countries than they are with European and Canada and countries like that. Why? I don't know. This is a non-immigrant visa, so it doesn't lead to residency. So they want to make sure that the people that are coming in intend to go back to their country. So when they apply for this, they're usually going to get the visa for 5 years, 4 years, and then they can keep on renewing. As long as the business is going forward, they can keep on renewing this visa. But the intent cannot be to live here permanently. As a matter of fact, when they go to the interview, and the interview is going to be at the U.S. Embassy of the country that they're from, they're going to ask them, why do you want to live in the United States? And if their answer is because I want to have a beautiful life with my family and I feel insecure in my country, they're going to get denied. If their answer is because I want to make money in the United States and eventually come back to my country, they're likely going to be approved. So the intent of this visa, it's not to live here permanently, is to be here while your business is going forward, to make money, to create jobs. That's what immigration wants to see. Again, the investment, has to be subject to loss if investment fails. That happens because you're buying a business or starting one from scratch. We have to show where you got the money. It cannot be obtained from criminal activity. So if you were, being a bad person out there, we cannot use that money. The investment enterprise cannot be marginal. What does that mean? If the investment is only good enough in returns to give you and your family a happy life and it doesn't create jobs, immigration is not going to like that either. So that's why it's very important that we create jobs for this type of visa as well. Somebody's asking me if it's possible for the investor to establish the company with a U.S. citizen. Yes, absolutely. For an E2 visa, as long as the investor owns 51%, it doesn't matter who owns the other 49%. It could be other U.S. citizen, a resident, people from other countries. It does not matter. As long as the investor that's going to apply for an E2 visa owns at least 51%. Usually they get the visa for 5 years, but that depends on the country that you're from. For example, Australia, 4 years, Mexico, 4 years, Chile, 1 year, Argentina, 5 years, Costa Rica, 5 years. So it just depends the country that you're from. And then you can keep on renewing this for the same amount of time. Right now with Corona, a lot of the embassies are closed or they're being really slow. I've had success in assisting my clients in applying in other embassies. So you don't necessarily have to apply in the embassy that you're from. You can apply in other US embassies that maybe are not as packed, and we have done that. And we recently just got granted one, whereas in her country, it would have taken a year for the interview. In this other country that we did it at, it only took 3 months. So we discuss this with the clients. We see their need to come here faster. There's also another way, which is called change of status, which is if the client entered into the United States with a visa and they want to change to E2 status, we can do it within the United States and we get a response within 2 weeks. However, I want to be really clear. Change of status does not mean a visa. Change of status means you came in with one visa and you're changing your status to another one. But the moment that you leave the United States, you lose that status. So that's not good for everybody. But if you come in and you change your status to an E2 visa while we wait for the interview in your country, and then you just leave to go and interview over there, that works for some people. So there is another avenue that we can do. If they come in with a visa, we can do a change of status in the United States, since their embassies might take a little longer, or we can go and send them to another embassy that maybe is not as packed. That is a particular conversation we have with each client to discuss what they want to do, what their needs are. They need to travel back and forth. And then we explain that to them and they make the decision. All right, somebody is asking me, do I have to have an executive position in the business or being an owner is okay? So for the L1 visa, you need to be an executive or a manager. It's not enough to be an owner. But I can tell you that most of the times, if you're an owner, we can probably find a way to show that you're an executive. You may not have thought about it, but you probably are. For an E2 visa, you can just be the owner. That's fine. You don't need to show that you're an executive or a manager because you only need to have 2 employees. So no problem for the E2 visa. It's for the L1 visa that we want to show that you're an executive or a manager. I have some questions here in the Q&A. Let me see real quickly. Okay. Somebody's asking me, as I am a tax resident of Panama, but I am a UK citizen, how can I invest without disturbing any present taxation? Okay, so for you, my friend, we need to have a consultation with an actual tax person, probably in Panama, maybe one in the UK and one here, so we can discuss what your tax implications will be. Okay, so an E2 visa, it's important. Why would you want to get an E2 visa, right? So there are people that just want to be here temporarily, not necessarily permanently. An E2 visa might work for you. If you want to invest with minimum amount, maybe $100,000, maybe $60,000, sometimes we've done it for those amounts, then an E2 visa will work for you. I can tell you that an E2 visa does not lead to residency. However, I have had cases that people, because they were here on an E2 visa, their spouse went to work for a small company, 5 employees, and then their spouse did a good job, and that employer wanted to do a labor certification and eventually perm, and then they obtained the residency. And then when the spouse obtained that, of course, the other spouse got it too, and their children. So the fact that she was here on an E2 visa allowed her to work for that company and obtain that opportunity. Had not it been for an E2 visa, that wouldn't have happened. So the E2 visa is granted to the investor, but the investor spouse is free to work anywhere he or she wants. Same thing with the L1 visa. The E2 visa, the L1 visa is granted to the person that comes in. They're only allowed to work for that company, but their spouse can go to school, can go work, can do whatever they want. And their children also can go to any school that they want until they're 21. Okay, it's very important to have that in mind, because an immigration family package for immigration, it's you, your spouse, and your children under 21. Somebody's asking me, does the owner get a work permit and be an employee of the company? The owner does not get a work permit. They don't need a work permit because their employment is incident to their visa. So they will not get a work permit. They're only allowed to work for the company that they're working for, whether it be the L1 company or the E2 visa if they're doing it and they own it. All right, now I want to talk to you guys about EB5. I don't know, I'm going to put my information because I don't know if you guys have it real quickly. Okay, I put it in the chat. So my phone number is 305-921-0976. And my email, it's Romy, R-O-M-Y, @hudalalawfirm.com. Okay. EB5 visa. EB5 visa, it's hot right now because something might happen on February 18th. Let me tell you what the law is right now, and then we'll discuss what we think the law is going to be in February 18 or when it's introduced and passed. So EB5 visa, it's actually hot right now because something might happen on February 18th. Let me tell you what the law is right now, and then we'll discuss what we think the law is going to be in February 18 or when it's introduced and passed. So EB5 visa, The EB5 visa was created with the purpose to stimulate the US economy. Okay, United States wanted to create more jobs, wanted to increase the economy. So they said, let's start taking foreign money and give them residency. Everybody win-win. Foreigners get the residency, US gets the money, and we create more jobs. So here they do tell you specifically, you need to create 10 jobs. It's very clear, it's in the statute, so you don't get away from it. The investment, they want it to be in a new commercial enterprise. Now, you're able to do it sometimes in an existing business, but you have to make sure that it qualifies. So for this particular visa, yes, the business have to qualify if you're buying an existing business. If you're starting one from scratch, then you can start any business. And we'll discuss about real estate as well in a minute. So usually there's two ways to do EB5. One is called the direct way, which is similar to the other visas where the foreigner comes in, creates a US company, creates the 10 full-time jobs, invests the money, and then manages the business. The other way, it's called through a regional center. Regional centers are private entities that have received authorization from immigration to receive foreign money, use that money to sponsor projects, and then because of that, the foreigners receive residency, okay? They also have the advantage of not needing job creation directly from the investor. When you do it through the regional center, they show that they created jobs and you don't have to worry about that. So as the investor, if you do the direct EB5, you're in charge of creating the jobs, you're in charge of managing the business. If you do it through the regional center, you're not in charge of creating the jobs and you're not in charge of managing the business. So if you're doing direct EB5, the business should be somewhere here that you can manage it. If you're doing it through a regional center, you can do a regional center in Chicago, California, and live in South Beach, no problem. Investment requirements as it stands right now is 1 million, okay, anywhere that you want to apply for an EB5, and $500,000 if it's an area of low employment or a rural area. That's as it stands right now. Today is what? February 9, okay? As of June 22 of last year, the investment requirements were lowered because they were increased at one point to 1.8 million anywhere and $900,000 in an area of low employment or a rural area. Those amounts were decreased to what we have right now, but also the regional center option that I was discussing with you expired as of June 30 of last year. So in this second, right now, you cannot invest through a regional center because it hasn't been authorized. So the only EB5 that we have right now is direct EB5, where you go and manage the business. There's been a lot of talk that a bill is going to be introduced on February 18, where they're going to reauthorize the regional centers, okay? And that possibly the investment amount is going to increase. How much? Nobody knows. The talk says that it might be, so instead of $1 million, might be a little more than that, 1.5, and then instead of 500,000, the minimum investment amount is going to be 700,000. We don't know as of this second. Hopefully we'll know soon. Hopefully they reauthorize the regional center, because I know a lot of people that just want to come in, give their money, have nothing to do with it, and obtain the residency. And that's fine too, as long as they do due diligence. Okay, so the targeted employment area, or what does that mean, right? When the amount is a little smaller, it's either a rural area or an area of high unemployment. If you're able to find those areas, then the investment amount can be lower. Right now, the investment amount would be lower to $500,000. The way EB5 works is you apply for EB5. It takes around 2.5 years for them to process your application. So during those 2.5 years, you don't have status in the United States. You can't just stay here and say, I'm here because I applied for an EB5 visa. It doesn't give you status. If you're here on other visas, such as E2 or student visa, then you can stay on that. But if you're not, or H1B, maybe you're here working, you need to wait in your country. After the 2.5 years or 2 years, we process, your visa gets approved, and then we process it, change of status, if you're adjustment of status, if you're within the United States legally on another visa, or we process to the US Embassy in your country if you're not, okay, through a national visa center. Then you come in here and you get something called conditional residency card, okay? It's not the permanent one forever, 10 years that you're used to seeing. It's a conditional one for 2 years. So that conditional card that you get, it's going to be good for 2 years. During those 2 years, you can either apply, no, not apply, I'm sorry, you need to remove the conditions. And the requirements to remove the conditions is to show that you created the 10 full-time jobs and that you maintain them, and to show the investment was made fully. So if we show that, we're able to remove the conditions. Now you have a permanent green card and you can stay in the United States for as long as you want. EB5 visa is a great visa because with money, you're able to obtain residency. It's very important that the client does due diligence on the regional center, both if they're doing it through a regional center, both legal due diligence to make sure that the regional center and the project qualifies, and financial due diligence, because investing in the regional center or a project, they don't really own anything. It's like buying stock. So they need to make sure they're going to have a return, and nobody can guarantee them a return because that's actually part of the regulation that your money be subject to loss. If they're doing investment on their own, then, you know, they need to choose the right business. They need to invest the money. And particularly for the EB5, we need to show the source of funds. We need to show a clear trail of how the money got here. There is a special conversation that we have with the clients, and we discuss how we can do it, how we can show it. And then they just pretty much have to open up the kimono and let us know how they want us to do it. All right, so now I want to answer some questions to see what we have. Somebody's asking me, can the owner also be an employee and pay taxes? Would they get a work permit? So the employee, yes, the owner will be an employee. Yes, they won't get a work permit because they don't need it. They are basically, it's incident to their visa, so they don't need a work permit, but they will pay taxes in the United States for the money that they generate here. Absolutely. Any restrictions with the EB5, does it work with any country? Yes, EB5 works with any country. It's not like the E21 that we have some restrictions. EB5 works with any country as long as they're able to show good trace of funds and that they qualify and they have the investment amount. Somebody else says, I want to know that I had an ITIN number for 20 years ago, but has expired. Do I need to reinstate the same, or will I receive a new one? ITIN numbers expire, I think, every 2 years, so you will need to apply for a new one. What are the qualifications for the business that is subject to the EB5 visa? I usually recommend starting a new business for an EB5 visa. It could be any business. You can open up a property management business. You could open up a construction business. You can manage real estate. You can develop a hotel. Anything having to do with real estate will work as long as you create the jobs and make the investment. Other businesses will also work, you know, as long as you invest the required amount and create the jobs. If it's an existing business, we have to show that you're saving certain number of jobs, that it was created after a certain year, and we're able to analyze that on the particular business to see if it will qualify for an EB5 visa. So out of these 3 visas, a lot of people ask me, well, Romy, which is the best visa? There is no such thing as the best visa per se. There is the visa that's right for that particular person, okay? Because somebody might want to do an L1 visa, but they don't have a company abroad that they work for, so they cannot qualify for that. They may have a treaty nationality, so they're able to do an E2. Somebody may have all 3 visas available to them. You know, they may work for a company that wants to open up a subsidiary here. They also have the treaty nationality, and they also have the money to invest to obtain residency. Sometimes what we end up doing is they apply for E2 in order to be here, and because it's faster. And then later they change their intent and they say, Romy, with the same business that I did my E2 visa, I want to apply for an EB5 visa because I would like to live here permanently. Okay, we're able to do that. As long as when they apply for an E2 visa, they didn't have the immigrant intent, their intent can change later. That happens all the time, and it's no problem. So they can do that as well. We like to give particular analysis to each case with each client, because it's not about the business so much as it is with the client, their needs, what they see in their future, who their family is, what is it that they want to do, how quickly they want to move here, what their long-term goals are. So we like to analyze all of that in order to give proper legal advice. And, you know, you guys as realtors are really important to me, because then you guys help me analyze all of this with the clients, and then together we can give them proper legal advice so that they can accomplish their goals. I love this country. I think it provides amazing opportunities. I came here when I was 11, didn't speak a word of English, and I was able to make my dreams come true, per se. And I have seen a lot of foreigners do the same. So I know that there's a lot of opportunity, but people need to receive the correct advice. There's also a lot of fraud here. In litigation, we see a lot of fraud, a lot of things. foreigners get taken advantage of a lot, sadly, by even other foreigners, which is even more sad. So as long as they have proper legal advice, they have a right team, I have seen how this works. And as long as the client understands it's not an easy process, they need to do their job, we need to create the jobs, we need to create the company, we need to follow the formalities, then it is something very rewarding. I love what I do when it comes to business immigration, because through an investment, which is another part of law that I love, which is business law, we're able to make people's dream come true, live here, reside here temporarily and permanently, and just be here and help the US economy. That's the great thing. They're not coming here to us for help. They're actually coming here to create jobs and improve our beautiful country. So who wants, more than that? Anyway, I hope that I have answered your questions. If I haven't, please feel free to contact me. I like to be seen as a resource to realtors. I look forward to working with you guys. I have a lot of classes this month, next month. So I hope you can participate in, some of our classes. I'm going to have other attorneys in the firm participate as well, so you can get their perspective. And I really thank you for joining me today. I like to make presentations quick and to the point because I know we're all busy. So thank you so much for being part of this class today. And I look forward to working with you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.